This is the Let's Talk Tribe weekly prospect chat, recorded on August 3rd, 2017. I am your host, Matt Lyons, and joining me as always on this Thursday evening is Let's Go Tribe lead prospect writer, Brian Heminger. Brian Heminger, so
there
close.
It is.
The whole time the music was playing, I was saying Heminger, and I messed it up. So. Brian, what do we have today?
We have so much to talk about. We have a no-hitter thrown by an Indians pitcher, complete game no-hitter. We have the trades deadline passed. We've traded some prospects. I'll be talking about that. Our number one pitching prospect, Triston McKenzie's been struggling a little bit, so we'll be talking about whether or not it's time to maybe shut him down. And then, of course, players of the week. And then an old friend, a former Indians prospect, made his major league debut this week, and I'm super proud of him. So a lot of stuff to talk about, and it's going to be great.
There's nothing better to start talking about than a no-hitter, of course. Shao-Ching Chiang, like you said, he threw one. This wasn't a minor league no-hitter. I swear I've seen more than one this year where it's been like multiple players, which makes sense because you don't want to burn on a minor league arm for a no-hitter down there, but he actually threw one and then recently got promoted. So what's going on with him there?
Yeah, and sometimes they throw them in like their double headers that are 7 innings. So does that really count? I don't know. But Shao-Ching Chiang really threw it, and that was super impressive. I mean, I'll talk a little bit about him first. I mean, he's 23 years old, which is about the average age of pitchers and players in high A, slightly younger. And he's basically a pitcher that pitches to contact primarily. He doesn't have a crazy strikeout rate. He struck out 81 batters in 122 innings this year. Primarily, he likes to throw low in the zone, get ground balls, and he pitches deep into games. I mean, there was a stretch at one point this season where he had, 7 games in a row where he pitched at least 7 innings. That's insane. He started off the year really well, like through I think his first about 10 starts or so. His ERA, I mean, it was all the way into mid-June. His ERA was 2.5. He was actually struggling in June and July a little bit, but then bam, out of nowhere, no hitter. But this guy has the kind of stuff that could get a no hitter because usually when you get a no hitter, it's not the guy that's going to be punching out, 15, 16 guys. Their pitch count's going to be too high. But Chiang was able to pitch to contact. He had some good defense behind him. The balls found the defenders, and he had 1 hit batter and 1 walk and 7 strikeouts. And then, of course, obviously 9 innings, no runs, no hits. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's always nice to see it somewhere in the Indians organization. What does he look like as an actual prospect? Just a generic sounding, gets ground balls and eats up a lot of innings. That sounds like a 4 or 5 pitcher who could be pretty solid, I would think. But what are we actually looking at as a prospect?
In terms of prospect status, he's a guy that's going to, keep working up the organizational ladder. He's not a top 30 guy. He's probably fringe top 50. And this year he definitely has had a much improved season. Let me check overall. He's having his best season relatively significantly this year. He's gotten a little bit better every year so far. So I think he's kind of, he could be a late bloomer a little bit too. I mean, this is his 5th year with the Indians. His first 2 years he was with first 3 seasons he was with the AZL Rookie League. If that sounds crazy enough. His first year he pitched 1 inning. Then his next year he pitched 1 inning.
Really,
and then he finally,
I
don't know if he had injuries or something, because I wasn't like the prospect writer back then. It looks like he was on the 60-day disabled list and stuff. So, but so that stalled his development. But it seems like he's coming into his own now. So I could see him being a back end rotation guy. I mean, you can always use those inning eaters that can get low pitch counts, like a Josh Tomlin type. So. And he doesn't walk people. I mean, he's at 22 walks and 122 innings pitched this year. That's great. So if he can just stay in the zone, keep the ball low, not give up a lot of home runs, he definitely is the type of pitcher that could make it to the major leagues.
So this next thing we're going to talk about, for listeners of this podcast, I think they understand the pain we're feeling right now. Maybe a lot of Indians fans might not, but the Indians traded for Joe Smith. Fun reliever, great guy, loves Cleveland. He might be a really good reliever for the Indians this season. Mm-hmm. But they traded away Thomas Pannone, a pitcher who, again, listeners of this podcast should be very familiar with. He allowed not a single run in High A this year, got promoted. He's been pretty good in Double A. And they also traded Samad Taylor. This feels like another minor version of the Andrew Miller trade. It's the same kind of idea, I think. But so what did we lose in Thomas Pannone and Samad Taylor?
Well, in Pannone, I think the Indians gave up a lot. I know that MLB Pipeline didn't have Pannone on their top 30, but I mean, I wrote pretty extensively complaining about why wasn't he in the top 30. He should be top 15 with the way he's been pitching the last two seasons. Personally, I think he was our number one left-handed pitching prospect, and that's saying a lot considering we have former first overall pick Brady Aiken, former first-round pick Rob Kaminsky, former second-round pick Juan Hillman, and then you throw in Sean Mormando with 3 shutouts this year. I still thought Thomas Pannone was our number one left-handed pitching prospect. So, I mean, he started the year out amazing. He was on a 45-inning scoreless inning streak, and then got promoted to Double A, made the Double A All-Star team despite starting the season like a month late. I mean, he's a really good young pitcher, and we're going to miss him, I think. I honestly think that he could have been good enough to be making spot starts next season. Toronto's going to like him. I think he could be like a number 3 starter type. Now, with Samad Taylor, he was a really good player. Like as a 10th round draft pick, he batted like 292 last year, and then he was batting 300 with Mahoning Valley, playing second base, and was being super productive. The problem is they had 2 really good second basemen on that team. Ernie Clement, who they drafted this year in the 4th round, a guy that never strikes out. He's on like a 15-game hitting streak. And so one of those guys became expendable. So, because they were basically going to be coming up at the same time. And so they threw him in. But Taylor definitely is a guy that I think could make the bigs at some point too. I mean, it's going to not be nearly as soon as Pannone, since Taylor's at low A. He still has about 4 levels to go through, but so far he's been up to the challenge. So it was tough to see those go. Even though they weren't top 30 prospects, they were both, like, I think a lot of people thought Pannone should have at least been top 20, and Taylor was on my others to consider list for the top 30. So I think, with Mark Shapiro knowing the Indian system pretty well, I think they definitely picked the right prospects to get back if the Indians weren't willing to deal like top guys to get Joe Smith.
And it's worth noting that Pannone, he does make the Blue Jays top 30 on MLB Pipeline. He's number 21.
Yeah, he's 21.
So we finally get to see their little scouting report on him. It looks like the reason for not having him higher. Yeah, the only reason they have it, he lacks a plus pitch and thrives based on deception.
Well, I don't know. All of his pitches were above average, though.
Yeah.
So
I think MLB Pipelines a lot of the time they look for that one, like they want to have 1 plus pitch, but Pannone just has
I think the other thing is where they're drafted. I think MLB Pipeline is super biased towards high draft picks. Mm-hmm. Like if Thomas Pannone had been drafted in the first 3 rounds and he was putting up those numbers, he'd be top 10 Indians prospect.
Yeah, and I do remember.
I swear.
I remember Jordan Bastion tweeted right after the trade that there are some GMs who think he was a top 10 Indians prospect just on his own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's got a good makeup too. I mean, being converted to a pitcher, basically was an outfielder when the Cubs drafted him, and then the next year he'd done some pitching in junior college, and the Indians drafted him. So, he's got a lot more potential for growth with that arm too, because it hasn't really been stressed that much.
So speaking of sad things, Triston McKenzie's not doing great. Last 2 starts, 13 earned runs over 10 innings. Jeez, he's still not walking a ton, 3 in each start, which isn't terrible. It's not great for him, but it doesn't look like a control issue. But he's just suddenly been hittable. What do you think it is with young Triston McKenzie, who just turned 20, yesterday in High A.
Yeah. Well, part of it is, he's probably getting a little tired. He's pitched 113 innings this year. In his career, which is his previous 2 seasons combined, which were shortened seasons, he is at 209 in his career. So, this year he's more than doubled his career innings pitched as a professional. So, although last year he did, he pitched 83 innings. So, he's not terribly more than last season, but I can understand, against going out there every 5 days, and he hasn't had any injuries or anything, and maybe his arm is starting to get a little tired. The start before, when he went 5 innings and gave up 7 runs, I wasn't as worried about that one because, he still struck out 6, so more than a batter an inning. But this last one, he walked 3 in 5 innings, gave up 6 runs, and only struck out 2. The thing that has been good about Triston is, even if he has a rough outing, he's still getting the strikeouts. He's still punching people out. And the other thing is, when he has a bad outing, he usually follows it up with an amazing outing. Like earlier this year, he went 1.2 innings and gave up 7 runs. Next start, he went 6 innings, 1 run, no walks, 8 strikeouts. So this time, he went 5 innings, 5 or 7 runs, and followed it up with 5 innings, 6 runs. So, I mean, it's not like just alarms blaring, shut it down yet, but we'll probably see how he looks his next time out. And if he struggles again, maybe it would be time to, slow things down a little bit, give his arm a rest for next season.
Yeah, I think it's just a simple explanation of it. He's just tired. It's not like a big traumatic thing. It doesn't mean he's terrible now. I don't think it has anything to do with his body shape either, the fact that he's skinny. He's just 20 years old and throwing every 5 days. That
also could have a factor in terms of endurance. I know that his velocity tails off as he gets later into games. So, as he does, pack on a little bit more muscle to his frame, which he definitely has room to do, he'll be able to maybe have stronger, longer seasons and have a little bit more life on his pitches late in games. Because I know that his velocity tails off about 3 or 4 miles an hour as it gets to like the later innings. But what's crazy is that's where he gets the most strikeouts, when he has to like pitch the most instead of, rely on his nasty stuff.
Yeah, I think we can both say neither of us are really worried about him. It's just
not whatsoever.
Stuff. Yep.
Until I hear something about elbow soreness or something, then I'll be worried. But for now, it just seems like he might be a little tired.
Does this mean he's not getting that September call-up, Brian? Is that what this means?
Yeah, I was expecting him to be getting called up to Double-A instead of Chiang, but yeah, he might. Oh, you're talking about September to the Indians?
Okay. But for a serious question, do you think it'll stop him from
being
in Double-A? Yeah. That's another good point, though. Like, will this prevent him from going to Double-A, maybe? They'll just let him ease off.
He'll definitely be going to Double-A next year, because, I mean, with his numbers, he could have been promoted to Double-A a month ago. But I guess that they're just going to slow the roll a little bit with him.
So kind of a good story here. Carlos Moncrief. He was a player the Indians drafted in the 14th round in 2008. He was in the system. It says his debut was in 2010. I don't know what he was doing before that. Probably the rookie league, which I don't think is counted in Fangraphs. But he was with the Indians through 2015. Went to the Giants after that. Never really quite made it, although he was a pretty decent offensive player all his way through. Always had WRC plus above 120 at every level, so he wasn't awful by any means. I just don't think he was ever really a solid blow-away prospect. But he made his MLB debut with the Giants, which is kind of neat. And he had his first hit, so... He's on his way. The Giants are not great, but at least he's found somewhere to play.
Yeah, I'm really happy for him, because I thought that he was done. Usually when you see a prospect get to AAA, and then he was at AAA all of 2014, and then everybody was like, okay, 2015's the year that he's going to make it to the Indians. But then he started the year at AAA in 2015, batted 187 through his first 57 games, got demoted to Double-A, which is brutal when you're just that close. And especially after you've already spent a whole season the year before at AAA, when he batted 271, which isn't even that bad. So, and then he spends the rest of the season at Double-A, and then the Indians release him. So, I mean, at that point, I thought his career was over. I mean, when you take a step back like that and then the team just gives up on you, I mean, that can be so disheartening. But credit to him, 2016, he spent the whole year at AA and made it to AAA in the Giants system this year, batted .287 and earned the call-up. And he got a walk in his first at-bat, and he's gone 3 for 5 with a double. So, he's leading all of baseball in hitting right now. So good for him.
Yeah, that's 600, 667, 800 slash. That's
that's
quite
bad.
The line, Carlos Moncrief. And then we saw the same
467 OPS.
Just casual stuff,
It's Barry Bonds numbers right there.
And we saw a similar thing early this year with Jesus Aguilar. He's with I don't think he's starting with the Brewers anymore, but he is there.
Well, yeah, the problem is has to split time with Marcus Thames. So even though he's playing great, like seriously, he's been excellent this year. Yeah. He's behind Thames. Yeah. Like he's got 11 home runs. He's batting .284. So yeah, he's doing great. I hope that he can stick around now. They've got to find room for him. I wish he was in an American League team just so he could get at bats at DH regularly if there was a first baseman ahead of him.
Oh yeah, he's such a typical DH. I think he's like perfect for that role.
But yeah, he's doing great. So it seems like he's going to stick, and I'm happy for him. Like it always felt like the Indians never really gave him a shot. Like they would give him like a spot start late in the season a couple times, and he never got a chance to like settle in. And then the Indians just released him this offseason because, there wasn't going to be a spot because they signed Edwin, and there wasn't going to be a spot at AAA with Nelly Rodriguez. And he raked in spring training and made the Brewers roster right out of spring training. And he's been there ever since, basically as a semi bench player. But hey, he's had 96 games. Like he's been getting in late and like getting those pinch hit at bats and all those situations when when they got a bat for the pitcher and stuff in the National League. So like he's succeeding, and I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, I like seeing former Indians prospects do well elsewhere, especially when they don't have a place here. It's just nice to see them do something.
As long as we didn't give them up for nothing,
they're not too good. Be
like
good,
Brandon Phillips. Brandon Phillips always hurts me.
Yeah, that always hurts. All right, Brian. So the place where most people are going to listen to this, let's break down your players of the week. Should have a couple good ones, I hope, this week. Last week was pretty sparse. Or not last week, but last time we had an episode a couple weeks ago. It was pretty sparse on great players, but what about this time around?
Well, this week, obviously, there's one player that is the easiest selection of all time, with Shao-Ching Chiang throwing a no-hitter. So he's clearly going to be one of the players. Yandy Diaz is batting over 600, so I think he's going to make it. He even hit a home run. People always make fun of him for not hitting it for enough power. I think he's hit a home run and 3 doubles, and that doesn't even include today where he's gone 2 for 4, and the Clippers are winning like 10-0, just smashing. And here's one, I think a first-timer, long time coming though, Nolan Jones. He has really been hitting well lately with Mahoning Valley, so he'll be on for sure. And then I'm still kind of looking for the next set of prospects. But with those 3, they have very strong cases, although it's going to be tough for anybody to beat Chang when you throw a no-hitter.
Yeah, it's hard to beat. And he skipped your 2-start rule. I mean, if you throw a no-hitter, you're breaking all the barriers.
Yeah, you throw a no-hitter or a shutout, you're getting in.
I'm going to vote for Yandy just because anytime I can vote for those biceps, I feel like I have to. If I don't, I'm going to get in a headlock or something.
Yeah, Yandy, seriously, you're going to be impressed by the stats that I'm going to be posting for this week that he's putting up.
He's been so good. All right, so we're going to move on to questions. Every Thursday, we ask you guys on Twitter and Facebook. Normally we'd ask live, but I'm 99% sure the live stream is not working right now. So sorry about that if you're listening later and we're wondering why it wasn't live. That's why. It was Facebook, not us. So at Bless You Boys, very important question off the top here. Can we have Francisco Mejia? I'm assuming they mean we as in the Detroit Tigers and not the Bless You Boys SB Nation blog. But can the Tigers have Francisco Mejia?
No. I mean, unless they were willing to give us like Justin Verlander, Ian Kinsler, take back JD Martinez and give him too.
And also
then I would consider. Yeah, and keep the money, pay off this season at least from their contracts. Then maybe.
Now, if they do mean, can we, as in Bless You Boys, have Francisco Mejia? Sure, he can moonlight as a blogger for the Tigers. I don't care. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, he's working on his English. Maybe he is, he's a poet. Who knows?
Exactly. So thank you, Bless You Boys. So at P Fiends, he wants to know, is there a legitimate path to the big league club for Richie Schaefer outside of September call-ups? Feels like his path is blocked. What do you think?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, he's a corner. Right now he's playing some corner outfield, and he can play third base. He's in the exact same situation that Yandy Diaz is in, except Schaefer strikes out way more, but he hits way more home runs, and he makes significantly less contact. So, both of those guys are playing the same positions, and right now, outfield is not an issue with the Indians. You've got Bradley Zimmer playing amazing, Michael Brantley playing amazing, Austin Jackson's killing it, and Lonnie Chisenhall's about to come off the DL. Even in the minors, you've got Abe Almonte, who was not playing badly with the Indians, but they just didn't have room with keeping Zimmer. So, yeah, there's not really room at the moment.
Yeah, he's also a third baseman, so I mean, maybe you could put him over there and put Jose at second, but I think they already kind of proved they're going to go with Urshela and Gonzalez as the backups. Urshela at third, Gonzalez at second. And
Plus we're getting Kipnis back Sunday. So.
Yeah, so it won't be needed, yeah. So yeah, it's just kind of blocked. I don't know. Maybe next year he'll use this as a way to sign somewhere.
Yeah. Schaefer could play first base next year. It's possible with Santana leaving, but you better be good first baseman.
Yeah. So thank you, P Fiends. Our next one is at Old Man Bickshorn. He wants to know, does Mejia project to play catcher long term? What other positions could he play? So Brian, we've heard that the only thing he has left to develop is his defense. So is that any kind of sign maybe he can play somewhere else, or is this going to be his position for kind of like a career-long catcher? We don't see a ton of those anymore, but is maybe he going to be one?
I expect that he'll be at catcher for a while. I mean, usually you see guys play catcher, and then when they want to protect him health-wise, they move to first base, like the Joe Mauer path or the Mike Napoli path. That's pretty a common thing. Mejia is a pretty good athlete. But he's 5'10". He's not a very big guy. So, first base might even be tricky for him. You usually want a bigger guy at first base so they can reach out for bad throws and stuff. So I think for now it's just stick at catcher. I mean, and his catching is still extremely good. It's not really a defense problem. It's more continue to learn English, continue to learn to call the game type stuff. The guy's got an absolute cannon for an arm, the best arm in the Indians minor league system. So he's fine at catcher, and he's athletic enough. I mean, he what's amazing is he wasn't originally a catcher. He was, I think, an outfielder or something. He could hit, and he was athletic, and they put him at catcher. And when you have a catcher that can hit like that, it's magical. And if you moved him away from catcher, it would take away a lot of his value personally, because you don't see a lot of catchers that can rake like what Francisco Mejia can do.
Yeah, like you said, that cannon arm. And I feel like a completely unresearched opinion here, but I think it's mostly the bigger guys that are moved out of catcher, like the taller guys with their knees go bad faster. He seemed like the good size to be a catcher for long term. Like you said, he's 5'8", he's 180 pounds, so there may not be a ton of stress on his knees, like somebody like even Salvador Perez for the Royals, or even Carlos Santana had on his knees. It's always the bigger guys who get moved to first who have all that stress on their knees. I think even Joe Mauer is kind of a bigger guy, but Francisco Mejia's littler, and he's got that rocket of an arm, and I'm so excited to see. I swear every week I'm more excited to see when he comes up. I'm being patient, but I'm so excited when he debuts.
I think it's next year. I think the Indians are gonna really be patient. Plus, I think he's dealt with a couple injuries this year. He had a groin problem. He's day-to-day with the hip thing right now. I don't think he's on the DL with Akron, but so the Indians are definitely being very careful with him. They're not catching him a ton of games back to back. So it'll be interesting, because once it's time for him to play in the majors, are they going to take the kid gloves off and let him catch 4 games in a row and stuff, and then have whoever's personal catcher or whatever go on? But I'm excited to see it, and when you got to get that bat in the lineup, and I expect that he'll be playing every day at catcher.
All right, thank you for that one, Old Man Bickshorn. So Mark Shevelton on Facebook, he wants to know, when we attend a minor league ball game, where is the best place to find statistics?
Well, the scoreboard certainly doesn't hurt. But if you're just looking up, like you see a player and you want to learn a little bit more about them, I really like MILB.com as a website, but that it isn't the most mobile friendly. So they actually, MILB.com has an app called First Pitch, and I use that all the time. Like if you're following the Indians teams, you can just set all your favorite teams to Columbus Clippers, Akron Rubber Ducks, Mahoning Valley Scrappers, Lake County Captains, and Lynchburg Hillcats, and you can kind of just check the scores for those teams every day, and then you can click the players, see their profiles, see how their careers are going, and all their statistics and stuff. And then, of course, you can't go wrong with Fangraphs. Fangraphs tracks every player, including all players in the minor leagues at all levels, even the DSL. So, those are definitely my go-tos when I'm looking up statistics for Indians prospects.
Yeah, I like it too. The only problem that I have, maybe is nothing to do with the ballpark, maybe specific, but they don't let you Chromecast games. Mm-hmm. I love watching minor league games on a MILB TV, but you cannot Chromecast, and it's still like, come on. You can't do it from the computer either. There's no way to watch it on your TV. It's ridiculous, people. Although I guess some of those games, the way they have this broadcast set up, they are not pretty, but like the Clippers, they get a really high definition broadcast, so they would be really great on a big TV, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you should lodge a complaint with them and see if they'll listen.
Oh, there's so many times I've complained about MLB TV anymore. I think everybody over there just ignores me. So Mark also asked, we sort of talked about this, but he wants to know, Brian, will you miss Thomas Pannone more than just as a prospect? What do you think, Brian? Are you going to miss Thomas Pannone?
I'm going to miss him a lot. Like, it's going to hurt me. Like the first time that he starts against the Indians, because I'm going to be so conflicted because he's such a good kid. Like, and I had like a really good interview with him where, we talked about so many cool things. Like he's from an Italian family. He's a Sinatra fan. You don't see a lot of players coming out of Rhode Island and making it to the bigs, and he did. So, or he's going to. And I'm going to miss Thomas Pannone a lot. Like, because I've been hyping this kid up for 2 years, and then the Indians just go and trade him. So I definitely was sad. I know Joe Smith is going to help the Indians a lot, especially now with Andrew Miller on the DL. But, man, it really does pain me to see Thomas Pannone going to be pitching it for another team.
I do think this could be easily like the equivalent of the Angels sending Mike Clevenger for Vinny Pastano. Because Pastano was really good for the Angels, but they also lost Mike Clevenger, who turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think Clevenger has a long future with the Indians, and the Angels are definitely kicking themselves for being short-sighted on that one.
So, Brian, that's all our scheduled questions, but we missed out on one. We don't have our Brady Aiken question of the week, which is surprising. This was the 1 week where I'm sort of ready.
Think.
Yeah, with what happened. He had another bad outing. I don't know if I'm fully blasting the Brady Aiken panic horn, but if there's a little bell, I'm sort of ringing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm in the corner ringing it. I'm a little worried.
It seemed like he was starting to figure things out. Like he had a stretch there with I think, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight games where he gave up 2 runs or less, including his first scoreless outing of the year. And then since then, his last 2 outings, he went 5 innings, 4 runs, and then most recently was just horrific. He went 2 2/3, 7 runs, 8 hits, 6 walks. His WHIP is almost 2. I mean, it's 1.83 on the season. That is atrocious. So, I hope that whatever it is that is just killing his command, I hope he can figure it out. Because, I mean, he is almost averaging a walk an inning. Yeah. He's averaging 0.8 walks per inning. I mean, usually you don't want walks and hits combined to be that. And he's given up more than 1 hit an inning. So, when you're basically almost averaging 2 base runners per inning, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, coming back from Tommy John, everybody has their own speed, but at this point, it's worryingly slow, and we're starting to see it in prospect ratings. He's slipping. He he was close to tops on some lists last year, and now he's
now
out
he's
of some top 10.
MLB Pipeline had him at 25.
Yeah,
he went from number 4 to 25.
Yeah, and like you said, Thomas Pannone leapfrogged him as probably the best lefty in the system.
Oh yeah, of course, clearly.
All right, Brian, that is our show for this week. Thanks everybody for listening. Well, I guess you aren't listening live now, but thank you for downloading it and listening it later. We will talk to you guys next week.
Have a good one.